Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for our webinar, How to Manage Your Learning Management System in a Complex Environment. My name's Shannon Krebs. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at Rizing, and I'll be the moderator for today's session. A couple of housekeeping items that are good to note before we begin. You are all going to be in mute and listen only mode, but please, we want you to ask questions throughout the presentation. So if you have a question, just go ahead and type it into the question box in the participant panel that's on your right, and we will cover these at the end or where it's more appropriate. Our presentation is also being recorded today, and a link to the recording will be sent to you shortly after the session ends today, and everyone will receive a copy of that. Today, we have two speakers that are going to be going through our session. If we want to go to the next slide, we can see who our fun people are going to be. The first is Nadia, who is our VP of HCM Product Development. She's actually been with Rizing for 8 years and is part of our product organization, our product development organization. And our product development organization builds a suite of extension solutions to SAP using various SAP technologies in the technology stack that SAP provides that allows our customers to have complete solutions to help fill in the white space in any product gaps that exist. We also have Bill Toohey, who is our practice director in the Rizing HCM LMS practice in our professional services team. He's been implementing and supporting SuccessFactors learning for the past 9 years and has been with Rizing for 6 years. And I'm here at product marketing to help you guys get the information you need based on the wonderful information I get from my friends and colleagues here at Rizing, such as Bill and Nadia. So Bill, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to you to kick off our presentation today.
All right, great. Thanks, Shannon, and good morning, everyone. There we go. All right. So in working with many of our clients when implementing SuccessFactors learning, there's typically a strong focus on the tools and processes needed to deliver instructor-led training successfully and efficiently. And I mean, that's for good reason. Instructor-led training, it's still considered one of the most effective training delivery methods in terms of overall knowledge retention. And it also allows for those real-time interactions between facilitators and learners that just simply can't be replicated through an e-learning module. And we find this is especially true in high consequence industries like manufacturing, utilities, and healthcare, for example, where your training needs are constantly evolving and you need to ensure that your employees are kept up to date on the newest processes and regulations. It's also in these industries we see many cases e-learning may not even be an option based off of scheduling, for example, in manufacturing, scheduling shifts where they need to take training and there may not have limited access to computers or kiosks that just may not be available. So one of the primary challenges with instructor-led training is that the management of these sessions can be a very time-consuming process. LMS administrators and training coordinators need to constantly be managing the scheduling of sessions, tracking instructor and learner availability, and performing tasks such as recording completions, which is often from things like paper-based sign-in sheets. So, using technology to enhance these processes can have a large impact on your organization's ability to deliver training effectively, and then also help maximize the overall training budget. So what we're here today is to talk about some of the tools that are available within the SAP SuccessFactors ecosystem to help streamline the delivery of instructor-led training and some of these complex processes that we see many industries face when you're managing that through SuccessFactors learning. So the primary focus is going to be on some of the tools that are available for instructors through the SuccessFactors mobile app. We'll talk about some of those things that they can use so instructors can manage their classes and do things like record attendance and completions on the go without having to be sitting down in front of a computer or taking a sign-in sheet after the fact and entering that into the system. And then we'll also look at Rizing's LMS Planner, which is a SuccessFactors learning extension that we've developed to optimize training scheduling processes. So it's really what we want to do is kind of take a holistic view of how all of these different tools can come together to help maximize efficiency when delivering training. So I think we have a poll that we wanted to start off with.
We sure do. So we thought that we would ask everybody what your biggest administrative pain point is managing your instructor-led training today. So you're going to see a poll that pops up on the screen right now. It will be available for you. So go ahead and tell us which one of these is the biggest administrative pain point for you. Is it resource scheduling, tracking attendance, managing on-the-job training, or actually all of the above? So if you guys, I see some results coming in. If you guys want to take another moment to vote, I will close the poll in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so now I'm going to close this and we will take a look at the results. So here's what people said, Bill.
Oh. Yep. So, I mean, and I think this is, one of the things that we see. It's very common. We can see the majority is around the basically everything, all three of those tasks. So that's not too surprising. Seems to be a bit of a bigger focus on resource scheduling. But all of these things are pain points, and what we want to do today is kind of talk about what are the tools that we can use to get past these pain points and relieve some of the stress that your LMS administrators may be facing today.
Perfect. Great. So I'm going to turn it back over to you.
All right.
There you go.
Great. Okay, so before we dive into the specifics on how these tools can enhance the training delivery process, we wanted just to provide kind of a high-level overview on how some of these different components fit together from a process perspective. So you can see on the screen here, we've kind of segmented out instructor-led process through 3 phases, going from your planning phase to the scheduling phase, and then finally the delivery and tracking phase. Then we have different swim lanes built out for 3 different perspectives, going from your participants or your learners, your administrators that would be scheduling or planning sessions, and then trainers that will actually be delivering those training materials to your learners. Now at the bottom of the screen here, you can see in the legend, we have kind of color-coded boxes for some of these various tasks and tools that can be used to help optimize some of these processes. Now I will note with the SuccessFactors mobile app, which is the lighter gray box, most of this functionality is also available through the desktop application, but what we want to focus on is how we can utilize mobile to make these processes more efficient. So just kind of we'll go through starting with the participant phase, the participant perspective. So from the planning phase, really what we're looking at is identifying training requirements or needs, and that's something that can be either built out based off of the role, or the learner is submitting requests for training. And this is some things that are typically done within the SuccessFactors LMS application. Then when we come down into the course scheduling for the participant, now we can use some of the features that are available on the mobile app. So these are some newer enhancements within the past couple of months, where we can actually manage our registration into scheduled offerings or those instructor-led training sessions. You view that through the course catalog and the mobile app and things like that. And then from the tracking phase, this is where we're validating that the learner actually attended the training that they were scheduled to attend. And when we get to the SuccessFactors mobile app, what we're going to talk about is there's QR code functionality that can enhance this to where we can remove those paper-based sign-in sheets and have participants scan and provide a QR code that would be scanned by the facilitator to record that they were actually attended the training, and that goes directly into the LMS. Now, from the planner perspective, when we're in the planning phase, I think the key thing we want to point out is that SuccessFactors LMS would really be the master data source for your training data. But the LMS Planner extension, which we'll look at in a few moments, is a tool that can allow the planners to take input the training needs that were identified by administrators and participants, load those into the planning tool, so that when we move into the course scheduling phase, there's lots of features available within this extension where we can look at managing, when people are available for training, viewing calendar-based schedules that show a holistic view of all the training sessions that are scheduled and who's scheduled to teach what, and then plan events and group courses together. Lots of tools available to help enhance the maintenance of your instructor-led or classroom sessions. Then from the tracking side for the planner, we have reports that are available in the standard LMS, because again, this extension integrates directly with your SuccessFactors learning platform. And then we can also do data extracts directly from the planner tool as well. Now from the trainer perspective, this is where we can use the LMS planner for them to enter when they're going to be available or unavailable for training. And that information then again flows back to the scheduler or the administrator that's building those sessions, so they know who's available for when. Then from the scheduling phase, we can use the Outlook integration that comes out of box with SuccessFactors LMS with the calendar invites that would be sent out when a participant or a learner registers into a training session, so they know when they need to attend that training. And then also we can use the planner tool to review when those schedules are going to happen, and then also send notification updates through that tool as well. And then from the tracking phase for the trainer, again, this can be done on the desktop, but we think the mobile app is really a good fit for a lot of these tasks, where we can do things like record our course completions. There's the ability to create and record ad hoc training sessions directly from the mobile device, and then also perform on-the-job training observations using the task checklist functionality that's available within SuccessFactors. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Nadia, who will talk us through LMS Planner a bit, and then we'll be back to go through some of the mobile features.
Perfect, thank you. Hello, everyone. So I'm pretty excited to give a high-level overview of LMS Planner, and then we'll go into a short demo to show a little bit, maybe a use case of what it would be like to be a scheduler and kind of scheduling some of these course offerings within the system itself. So if you can move on to the next slide. So in a summary, as you can see here, and as it was mentioned, LMS Planner is really that extension solution to SuccessFactors Learning. It's a solution that was really specifically designed to optimize the training management process. And it's really complementary to the standard offerings of the SuccessFactors Learning module. So really, if you look at these three areas that it covers, it really was designed to provide the functionality to fill some of the gaps that's in the standard solution around providing those global views, like it was mentioned, for trainers and schedulers, by having various calendar views for one, but also consolidating a lot of data into those views. So it really minimizes having to click through a lot of areas to get to the information that you want to see. So of course, what comes with that is being able to optimize the whole scheduling process. One of the ways that it allows to do it as well is by allowing sessions to be created in a draft mode before they actually are published for everyone to be able to register on. So really that allows the administrators, the schedulers to be able to create things in flux and really optimize the resourcing against those scheduled offerings to have like a really good plan in place. And then of course, we have some built-in tools within the solution as well to facilitate that process by allowing some coordination in the tool between trainers and schedules on providing their availabilities, and also by allowing them to create some information blocks to ease the communication, as opposed to having to do that through emails or in an external system or in Excel spreadsheets, for example. And then, of course, we also have kind of the concept of long-term planning, where we provide a mechanism where you can kind of have planners or roles of planners being able to define what the future needs are in a longer time span as an input for schedulers. And then those planners can define what the demand is, either based on historical data that's coming out of the system from the past or on known programs that are coming, etc. And then, it was mentioned before that not only does the solution leverage all the master data that's maintained in the SuccessFactors learning systems, like all the course items, all the resources, etc. But we basically also, the fact that it was built on the SAP Cloud Platform, we can basically create that integration and it leverages that platform. So the performance, the security, the scalability is one aspect that it brings to the table, but also most importantly, it really provides that seamless experience for the end user because the solution is fully integrated within the system itself. So we can move on to the next screen. So this is a subset of what Bill just walked through before. We just kind of wanted to highlight what are those key tasks that relate to the LMS Planner. In our demonstration today, we'll focus on a subset of these tasks. And if anybody has some interest or curious about other areas that we don't actually touch on today, we can go into more detail, but we're really focusing on going into the solution as a scheduler to give you an insight on how they would use the solution to simplify that planning and scheduling of instructor-led training sessions. And in the summary process overview, we talked again about the master data, these course items that are maintained in the SuccessFactors system. But here, we're really going to see how we can create and manage these scheduled offering directly in the LMS Planner solution. All right, so we'll look at essentially creating schedules and controlling the status of these scheduled offerings and when they can be published. We'll look at these scheduled summaries based on those statuses, and we'll see how we can coordinate availabilities, or rather unavailabilities. So how kind of we can create these blocks, these information blocks, so that they can be used as a tool between the schedulers and the trainers to have that transparent and available to everyone. Because really at the end of the day, the LMS Planner solution is meant really to be the main tool for schedulers and trainers for the planning and scheduling process. So now we can move on to the demo. If we can just switch the presenter. Thank you.
Be coming to you, Nadia.
Yes, it is. Let me know if you can now see my screen.
Yep, we gotcha.
Perfect. So, I mean, we quickly talked about the long-term planning and the overview of LMS Planner, but right now we're going to go kind of into the day-to-day of what a scheduler would be doing in the LMS Planner tool on a regular basis in terms of managing all those scheduled offerings. So by default, when we go into this operational planning section, we get to the standard filter screen, but as you can see here, we have many different tabs that we have to navigate through, and they don't need to be navigated in this particular order, but these are all the different areas in the solution that can be leveraged by the schedulers here. Of course, based on the role that you have in the system, you would see different functionality and even different data to a certain extent within the solution itself. So by default here, this is a filter screen where we can then look at different criterias to be able to look at the information for particular resources, whether it's instructors or rooms or equipment. All of these fields here can be searched by either equal or contains, and then as you search within this information here, it populates a list of results that we can then go and see those global views for and see what scheduled offerings have been scheduled for these criteria. So here we're going to go into the system, for example, and choose a team of people who fall within the same organizational unit, for example. You could have also searched based on a particular activity ID. That would give you the courses for a particular instructor that they are qualified to teach. So there's really various ways that you can kind of put some search criteria in the system to then generate a list of results. So here on the right, it gives me the list of results for the resources that meet that criteria. And I can go ahead and select as many as I want, or all of them, or individually as here. When I select these resources here and then navigate to the calendar screen, then it populates all the scheduled offerings that are associated to those resources that I've selected. So this is really where, as a scheduler, I can pick and choose the kind of groupings of resources that I want to look at for my scheduling or planning purposes. The standard view is a basically weekly view. You can choose to hide or show the weekends. And you can also navigate from a daily view to a weekly view. And you have the standard functionality that you would find in any type of calendar system where you can navigate forward and backwards within a certain period of time. So for example, if I put myself in this week, I see all of the different scheduled offerings that have been created in the system. They may have been created here in LMS Planner, or they may have been created in the SuccessFactors learning system directly. But as I mentioned before, really the idea is to really use LMS Planner as the go-to tool to manage all of this. Now, if we look at the information here, this is the weekly view, but we can go focus in on what a daily view, weekly view, and then for the scheduler, I'll quickly show you a 4-week view, which is really efficient when you're trying to look for that white space, right? And really be able to find out which resource here would be available to give a given course at a given period of time. So it's that different view that allows you to manage your resources differently. If we go back to the standard weekly view, we can also unselect the different resources and be able to kind of focus on one person in particular. This is the view typically that trainers would go in and see for their own calendar view, but you can give trainers access to be able to see their peer calendars as well. And training managers are as well, who can then see their group of trainers and be able to manage and assist if ever there is a need. Now, we can also look basically at some details around these offerings. So if I look at, for example, this particular offering here, I see the details of the course offering. I see all of the information related to that. If there were any participants that were assigned to this course offering, it would be shown here, and we see the details here. As the scheduler, I can actually go directly and modify this information, and it would bring me to the editor tab. So we'll go ahead and go there, and we can see here, this is the standard information that we see for that particular course offering. And I just want to highlight kind of what I touched on before as well in terms of this planning status. In this particular case, this course offering is in the published status. So that means it's available to all. It's been in a published state. It is also accessible and available in the SuccessFactors learning solution as well. We also have different fields like description and comments. So description is the standard field that we find in SuccessFactors LMS, but there are some specific fields in the LMS Planner that were created by design so that they would be fields that would only be available in this solution here, so that schedulers and trainers could exchange on information that should not be visible to all. For example, in this case, the code to enter a specific room and some maybe steps that should be done within the contents of that course. I'll go back to the calendar screen here and also highlight what I mentioned before in terms of these information blocks. So we can go ahead and create a block that's basically indicating an unavailability in a specific point in time for a particular resource. So this functionality can be leveraged by schedulers who want to input unavailabilities for other resources for either trainers or rooms, or for trainers themselves who want to maybe provide some indication to the scheduler team of maybe some certain restrictions within a certain time period, like no traveling or travel times at the beginning of the day or the end of day, vice versa. So for example, I can show you here, this was an information block that was created for this resource or by this resource. And as an example, it was just indicated that within that time period and on the specific date of June 20th that they cannot teach and that they're traveling to their next location. So it really provides that central area that everyone has visibility on, and it really removes a lot of manual processes or emails or other mechanism required to maintain this information in one system. So that's an overview of what the global views look like. If we wanted to actually create these sessions, we can go to the Editor tab where we start with a blank slate. By default, we have the conference type, which are, like instructor-led trainings, but you also have the capability to create the different types of sessions in your system based on what's configured in your SuccessFactors learning system. As an example here, we can go in and create a system here, and as we navigate, it will pre-populate it with the information based on what's been configured in the SuccessFactors learning solution as well. So if I come here and create a system, a session, and we go put it into a specific date, we'll start it on the 2nd, and we'll put in a specific time here. And then we'll go put it for a duration of 2 hours. And then we can simply type in a letter or start typing, and the system responds and either searches by that instructor's ID or that instructor's name. And then we can go ahead and copy that information very quickly from one segment to the other. And as you can see here, it pre-populates with another date, and we can go ahead and pre-populate that information here. As we go to save that information, it will check if there's any conflicts. And it just happens to be that there is a conflict here on the 4th because there were some blocks of unavailability holidays that were created in the system. So it's not allowing us to use that date. So we can go ahead and change it for the following date. And then it would let us go ahead and save that session, and all the warning messages are removed. And as I mentioned before, the default status here is what allows us to play with what's available within the LMS Planner system to the schedulers, what's available to the trainers, and then what will be made available into the master system, which is SuccessFactors Learning. So schedulers can change the planning status of the different sessions as they want to kind of move its workflow into the system. So by default in the system, schedulers can have access and see the sessions that are in process. Trainers can see the sessions that are in the plan status. And then of course, once they are triggered to the published status, that is what triggers the mechanism to then integrate both systems together and have the data available in both environments. All right, so that is how we typically create sessions here. Really quickly, I thought it could be interesting as well, since we have a little bit of time, to show you also how we can use the standard curriculum functionality, which is where you can enter some information here based on what, again, is maintained in your SuccessFactors learning system. And you could actually create sessions based on those curricula that have been defined. I've gone ahead and created some already in the system here, and I'll show you that in a moment. And when we search for that, the nice thing is that we then have that information at our disposal here in the system by searching on that. As opposed to in the learning system, when you create that, sometimes that link is broken, but we can go ahead and keep that link maintained here as well. The other thing that we can also do is create an actual generic one from anything and group sessions as we see fit. So I've created one for the purposes of our demonstration today, and I've called it LMS Webinar. So essentially, I'm naming a group called LMS LMS webinar. And when I search on that, I can see the list of all the different courses that are part of that group. And then we can actually, from here as well, navigate to the editor tab and be able to manage these ones. And then we can return back to that list. So really it provides a mechanism for schedulers to group different course offerings together and keep them linked together. So that is what I wanted to show you today very quickly into the system. We can return back to the presentation where I can just summarize a little bit of what we've seen and maybe give you an indication of some other functionalities that are available in the system as well.
Great. Thanks so much, Nadia. Let's get back to the presentation now. Here you go.
Perfect. So essentially, if we look through this, really the objective and why course scheduling is such a key process in instructor-led training is being able to really have that centrally executed process, right? To have everything in one place, and not just a tool that simplifies that and having a central tool, but also a mechanism or a process, a robust mechanism for basically the training organization to coordinate that planning and that scheduling. And of course, we want to be able to keep everyone notified of any of these changes. So really, LMS Planner provides that centralized process and tool to control it. And if we look on the right-hand side, we saw how we can basically create these draft simulations. When we look at access to training requests and unavailabilities, we saw how we can create these unavailabilities and they're viewable to everyone. But it's also possible in the tool itself for us to create training requests and being able to see those training requests and be able to use them as a basis to create scheduled offerings. And basically also the link that we saw today was linking around groups of scheduled offerings, but we also have the capability as well to, in another tab, where you can manage the links between what the request was and what's actually scheduled. And also we saw, as a scheduler that it has built-in application behavior. So we have that role app behavior that's in the system as well. So we can see, for example, how trainers can only see what they're supposed to see, but there's also some administrative features that are available to administrators that are not available to others as well in terms of editing session offerings, etc. And we can also, we talked about it in the process overview, be able to extract the data directly from LMS Planner. So we provide the functionality, given that not all the data that's in LMS Planner is in the SuccessFactors learning modules until it's in that published status. We provide the mechanism to be able to extract that data in CSV formats so that if ever they want to be used outside of the system, that's a possibility as well. And I can hand it over back to Bill, if you want to take on for showing the mobile part.
Right, great. Thanks, Nadia. Okay. So what we want to talk next are some of the features in mobile learning that can be utilized by instructors to help streamline the delivery of instructor-led training. So I think we have another poll focused.
Yep. Yeah, we sure do. Thanks, Bill. So we wanted to actually ask people how they're using SuccessFactors Mobile today for learning. So we're going to go ahead and launch the second poll, and you can actually respond in multiple ways here. So go ahead and feel free to let us know if you're using it or how you might be using it, or if you're not using it at all. A couple of people are voting. This is going to be kind of fun. I'm enjoying these results. I can't wait to share them with everybody. So I'll give everybody a few more seconds to respond. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close this. And Bill, I wonder if you were going to be surprised by these results.
No, so no one is using it today. So I mean, there is a lot. There is, typically a lot of work involved in rolling out mobile for learning, specifically from the content perspective for learners, especially now. There's a large effort to migrate from Flash content to HTML5 so that it can be supported on mobile devices. So and there are still, I think opportunities to where you could potentially start using mobile for your instructors, for some of the functionality that we're going to discuss and take a quick look at today, before actually rolling out the full featured set of giving people the ability to take training on the go through a mobile device. So let's.
Perfect. Why don't you show us now? That'll be great.
Right. Okay, so coming back to our instructor-led training processes, similar to what we looked at with Planner, we want to talk about how the SuccessFactors mobile app can be used for some of these different tasks or steps. So we'll talk about from the scheduling perspective, both from the learner and the instructor view on how they can manage some of their sessions. For the instructor, we'll see how they can actually manage rosters and then view sessions that they're scheduled to teach. These could be sessions that are scheduled through directly in SuccessFactors Learning or through the LMS Planner extension as well. All of that will be in one place because this is just connecting directly to your SuccessFactors LMS. Then from the tracking perspective, we're going to talk a little bit about being able to track attendance using some of the mobile applications. And then also how completions can be recorded, some opportunities to create ad hoc training sessions directly from a mobile device, and then on-the-job training observations using the task checklist functionality available through SuccessFactors. So unfortunately, I don't have a fancy demo like Nadia did, but I do have some screenshots of how this look in the mobile app, SuccessFactors Mobile, and then we'll talk about what we're seeing on the screen and what some of these features are. So what we're looking at here, for those of you that have implemented the My Classes UI within the SuccessFactors application, so that's the instructor functionality available on the desktop version to manage classes. This should look very similar. It does have a similar look and feel that you would see, a similar look and feel that you would see to what's on the desktop. So this is showing from an instructor perspective. If they go into their My Classes section of the mobile application, we can see what sessions they're scheduled to teach. Get some information about how many people are currently registered, where that's going to be held. If there's any documents that were attached to that schedule offering record, we'd be able to access them through the documents link on our sessions. And then also we can see the past classes. That is where we can go through and view the training courses that have already happened. You can view attendance based on who attended those sessions and then record completions. Again, this can all be done on like a mobile device or tablet so that you don't have to log into a system to do that. So again, if we're thinking in scenarios where we may be delivering instructor-led training, but it's not a typical classroom, this may be on site, or if you're working with someone in a specific location where you don't have access to a laptop or a desktop, this can be easily tracked through a mobile device. There's also, which don't have a screenshot, but we'll talk about the Authorized to Teach section. So if you do enable the ability within the LMS to allow instructors to record ad hoc training sessions, that's where I would be able to go through there to schedule those, and we will see what that looks like as well. Right here. So this is if we were going through and using the Authorized to Teach and build out that functionality within the LMS. This is a screen that an instructor would be able to see, like on an iPad device, if they're going to record a training event. Think about use cases could be lunch and learns or safety briefings where maybe it's not something that you have formally scheduled. That to where it could have been created directly in the LMS or in the planner tool ahead of time, but you want to just track that training occurred, and the people that are authorized to teach those training activities can just go in, search for the learners that they would have access to through the LMS, and record completions on the go for whatever topics or materials they were teaching. And this is, again, looks very similar to what you would see on the desktop device, where you can enter in the training hours, so the total hours, contact hours, CPE hours, if there's any grading information, the completion status. So, are they successful in taking the training? And then also you can add in comments. So the same type of functionality that we would have available on a desktop can be done through a tablet. Now, this is, I think, a really cool feature. It's been in the system for some time right now. Now, and that is the ability to do course attendance through QR codes. I will note that at the moment, the tracking of or recording the course attendance using the QR codes does require iPads, so it is not supported on all mobile devices. And what I mean is, for the instructor, they would need to have an iPad to record the attendance. But what this does is it gets rid of the need to have manual sign-in sheets where someone has to, basically take that sign-in sheet after the fact, and then the instructor then either takes it and enters that information into the LMS, or maybe that gets handed off to an LMS administrator, who then has to then enter that information in the LMS. The way this solution works is, if the QR codes are enabled, with the registration notification that gets sent from the LMS to the learner when they're registered into a session, it will include a QR code, which then they could then open up on their phone. So when they go to check into the session, they open the QR code on their phone, and then the instructor could use their tablet to scan the code, and then that will track their attendance in the LMS. So that, if we're having like multi-day training sessions, maybe it's 5 days in a row, instead of having to manage 5 sign-in sheets, you can streamline the process by scanning the codes each day, and then when the instructor is recording the final completions, they'll be able to view who attended each day based off of the check-ins that was done through the QR code scanning. So again, this is really looking to kind of streamline the processes for tracking attendance within your scheduled offerings in the LMS. So this is not directly related to instructor-led training or scheduled offerings in SuccessFactors, but I do think it's an important feature to point out, is that the task checklist functionality that is available in SuccessFactors is supported on mobile. And really, that's probably the biggest use case for doing this, is when if you're a facilitator or a trainer that is then doing a follow-up observation after training happened. I can be, at a specific machine or site, and take out my mobile phone and observe the learner or the employee work through a set of tasks, and then grade them on each task, whether they were successful or not, and then add comments, and then that flows back into the LMS. So again, it's really just a way to perform these observations and make sure you're not having to do things on paper and then come back later and enter that in manually into the LMS. Again, it's just a way to facilitate these types of observations on the go. And this functionality does not require an iPad for this. This is fully supported on both the Android and iOS devices. So another kind of handy tool that we have available. All right. So again, just to kind of summarize what we're looking at and and some of the ways that we can use to manage our sessions through mobile. Really, our key objectives here were to give instructors and facilitators the tools they need to manage their classes. So again, by being able to look at my scheduled sessions on my mobile device or tablet, I can then view who's there. I could add walk-ins to the session if there were people that weren't registered in the LMS beforehand. Again, that's something that's permissionable, but that's if I have the ability to do that through the LMS, I'd be able to do that on the mobile device. streamlining the processes for tracking training attendance and completions. So really looking at the QR code attendance, giving a way to kind of move away from paper-based sign-in sheets and just track things electronically directly in the system can help remove a lot of that administrative overhead that's involved in doing the follow-up steps that we see from traditional instructor-led training. And then also enhancing the process for tracking post-training observations. So again, this is where we're looking at using that mobile task checklist functionality to validate, that someone has learned the processes needed from training, just as kind of a follow-up assessment tool, which is, again, another way to help kind of streamline and manage your training processes and measure effectiveness to see that everything is working out as well. Now, there are other features available to help kind of streamline instructor-led training outside of mobile. There's the virtual learning systems integrations that are available within SuccessFactors to deliver training virtually. Unfortunately, we wouldn't have time to go through all of that during this webinar, but that's definitely something that if people are interested in learning more about that and how that works with SuccessFactors, something we would be happy to set up some time to discuss. So I think now, Shannon, I'll turn it back over to you. I think we may have some questions.
Sure. Thank you so much, Bill and Nadia, for going through all of that. That was great. So a couple of questions have come through, and I also want to remind people that they can use the questions panel in the right-hand side. We do have, someone was raising their hand, but go ahead and actually just type it into the question panel on the right-hand side, or you can even type it into the chat box, and I will go ahead and monitor that as they come through. So let me go ahead and address a couple of them that have come through already. One is probably for you, Bill. Is there additional licensing required for mobile?
So there's no additional licensing to have the mobile enabled. So if you have SuccessFactors learning license already, you'd be able to enable learning within the mobile app as part of the standard offering. There's also other features available outside for the other modules that can be enabled as well. Yeah, so.
Cool, great. Another one is for LMS Planner. Does it integrate with Outlook?
Yes, so LMS Planner does support Outlook integration, and we do offer 2 types of support depending on the needs. And we also support, as kind of was mentioned in that overall process, leveraging the standard Outlook integration that's available in SuccessFactors Learning. But in addition to that, providing some updates, notifications within the Planner tool, so that when there are any changes made to those scheduled offerings, where it's not possible to leverage the Outlook integration in the learning solution, then the planner can then take care of sending any of those updates back to the trainers and the schedulers as well.
Perfect. And then a couple more. Does the planner work for international use?
Yeah, so if I understand the question correctly, and if not, please correct me. I'm assuming it means for multiple languages or multiple locations. So because LMS Planner is based on being integrated with the learning solution, it would just be creating that integration with the one or multiple systems that you may have in your landscape. And in terms of language support, yes, it supports multiple languages as well.
Great. Okay, this one sounds a little tricky to me. Bill, can we use the QR code as the students enter the building and not the specific classroom?
Yeah, so I mean, it's really, I think that's something we'd want to kind of talk through when we're implementing, if you're implementing this feature, to think about, how it will actually work. What is the process that's going to be defined into when someone checks in and when they get credit. So, but I mean, there's nothing, technology-wise that would prevent you from just scanning them when they enter the building rather than the classroom. So it's really just more about the process that we would want to define that would work best for your organization and any training requirements. Yeah, that's definitely an option that, that could work.
Okay, perfect. Great, a couple more that have come through. Does LMS Planner support single sign-on, Nadia?
Sure. Yes, we support both basic type authentication with username and password, as well as fully single sign-in authentication. So as we mentioned, the solution is built on the SAP Cloud Platform, so it really leverage the security component that's made available from the platform itself. So as people are getting authenticated into that system, we can leverage that setup. That being said, the LMS Planner solution, which is an application that is also a standalone application on the SAP Cloud Platform, with its own data, etc. We can also make that particular application available to a subset of users as well without having to go through the SuccessFactors solution as well. So you really have that flexibility on how you want to provide access to the different users in the solution. And you can maybe envision the use case around that, allowing maybe an external party access to the planner to be able to input training needs in the system itself that aren't part of the SuccessFactors landscape.
Cool. I was going to say, and maybe somewhat opposite of that is, how is LMS Planner integrated in SuccessFactors?
Yes, so then the integration component is the fact that it's an application that's deployed on the cloud platform, and we really leverage the integration capabilities of that platform that basically allows those two systems to integrate in the same data center per se. So wherever your SuccessFactors data center is, the LMS Planner would be in that same landscape, in that same cloud environment. They're just communicating with each other through that cloud platform component.
Perfect. Well, while I check for another question, I also want to let everybody know that we are having a virtual expert hour around SuccessFactors learning, and that's going to be on July 16th. So that's coming up. So if you have any other questions around learning or LMS Planner, anything in general, mobile, or anything in the LMS world, you can go ahead and dial in for that. It's going to be an office hour that we have set up. It's on Tuesday, July 16th, and you should have received registration information for details for that. I will go ahead and include that information in our summary email that you'll be getting after this. And in looking at it, I don't actually show that we have any more questions. So if anyone has any more, feel free to pop them through. But if not, just thank you so much, Bill and Nadia, for giving us that information today, and everyone on the line who joined us. We really appreciate your time. If you have any questions, feel free to drop an email to the email address on your screen. You can also find out more information at risinghcm.com in our innovations area. And for that, we're going to go ahead and close the recording today. We'll make sure to send all this information to you later. But thank you so much for spending part of your time with us. Cheers.